Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in. It's another edition of JJ and Alex. It is a Tuesday edition of JJ and Alex. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. He's JJ. I'm Alex. What's going on, JJ? Everything good?
It's great. It's Big 12 week.
But I noticed you're going full Ole Miss colors with your TV outfit today. Do we call it an outfit?
Jackson Dart.
Do we call it an outfit? Is that what we do? Look, it is. It's full on a nod to Jackson Dart and his.
I wish
Heisman.
I was that thoughtful.
It's
prepared.
But you know what?
Plan my outfits that way. I just throw stuff on. That's in the closet.
It does work. Well, and you got your color wheel. You got certain colors you can. And the Ole Miss light blue with the red and the white. It all works, man.
I'm hotty toddy today.
You are hotty toddy. You know what you could do? You could show up at one of those Southern get-togethers with one of those with like a with some of those. What are those? What's that material called with the pants? That they have like the linen or like those like white pants that are like
the men wear?
Yeah. Slacks.
You got me.
White slacks.
Do they drink like fruity fancy drinks?
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
Mint juleps.
They usually have a bow tie, and their dad's a lawyer in the South. Your Honor, I'm just a simple man. I assume everybody is Foghorn Leghorn down in the South.
I swear.
You think I care?
You think I care? So look, yeah. Are those trees back in full bloom again, or that one is dead? We know the one died.
Rest in peace.
I wonder if they brought the other trees back. Bottom line is JJ is a Big 12 guy, but he's dressed up in SEC colors. Anybody in the
Roll down tide.
Anybody in the Big 12 with that color
it's
scheme?
Almost Kansas, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably Kansas is the closest.
That's the closest
you would get to this.
Yeah, because Kansas.
This is like the Houston Oilers, right?
Oh yeah, it is. It's that baby blue.
Houston Oilers.
Don't do it.
Houston Oilers.
Don't tempt Jeremy. You know it's too early in the show to get. Oh, look out, football. What is it?
Look out, football. Here we come.
Yeah, look out the whole sport of football. Bo, bo, bo. Then it just sounds like a chubby guy's walking down the street.
Playing a tuba.
Bo, bo, bo.
Is there a rule that you have to be overweight?
Football team to play tuba.
How come you have to be overweight to play the tuba?
No, people are like, it's because you got to carry them. They're called sousaphones, by the way, the big ones that you have to carry. Some guy's like, what did you do when you're... Oh, did you hear me? I played snare on that session band situation with the Houston Oilers fight song. So dumb. But at the same time, I would encourage all NFL teams to get a band and get a fight song. I think we need that.
I want the Houston Oilers back. Can the
Jeremy
Titans and Texans work out some kind of trade? Because the Houston Texans is the dumbest
I know.
mascot in all of the NFL.
Okay, so
it's dumber than the Browns.
What you need to do is, the Browns have a history, right? Yeah, what's the elf? I don't know what's going on with that. Is he a Keebler? Is it a Keebler situation?
It's creepy, man.
Is it the Keebler family that started the Browns? Why is that guy?
It's got some elf making fudge. What is this guy?
I don't get it. Because he's wearing a Christmas hat, right? And he's got pointy ears. Like he's full on straight out of Christmas.
Evil.
But he's their midfield logo this year. That elf on the shelf is their freaking mascot at the middle of the field this year.
There's no place in the NFL for an elf on the shelf.
Jeremy goes, I have some info. Well, yeah. Who is it?
I did a little Googling.
Yeah, what is it? Wait, who is it?
Well, 1946, as part of the founding of the team, Art Modell, the owner, disliked it.
So he didn't like the elf.
No.
So they had to wait for him.
With us? Is Art
no,
Modell?
he's not. That's what I'm saying. You could only bring it back after he passed.
And the people in Cleveland cheer. Not me. Don't send your emails to me.
But who is it? We didn't find out. We didn't find out who it is. He's wearing a Christmas outfit, but it's brown and orange.
So Kevin Stefanski, former coach, had on a hoodie in when was it, 1999. Popularity resumed.
Okay.
So that's why.
Stefanski had it in 1999?
What it says here.
Stefanski was like 12 in 1999, wasn't he? What was he doing in 1999?
Apologies. I read this.
Was born in 1999.
No, it came out in 1999. He wore it later on. Sorry,
okay, there you go. No, I was wondering. I was like, Stefanski wasn't even on the scene until like 2017.
2020 for him.
All right.
So but it's been around for a long time.
All right. Well, Elfie on the shelfie for the Browns.
Brownie the Elf.
Oh, boy.
That's your mascot, Cleveland?
Yeah. No, look, the dog pound was just fine.
What happened to the dog pound? Now we have Brownie the Elf.
I know. You guys could have really run with Triumph the Insult Comic Dog and have that kind of be, because it was like a bulldog, but then it was like kind of a Rottweiler. People were wearing like the rubber dog masks at the games. I was fine with that.
Also, fans voted 2022 to make it midfield logo.
Oh,
so blame them.
Gosh, I will blame the fans.
So it's from the late 1940s.
Yeah. Brownie the Elf. That's dumb. All right. I'm moving on.
2 hours with you.
Sorry.
Which is probably the reason why I've had enough tonight.
Yeah, Brownie the Elf was born in 1946.
Born? Brownie the Elfie on the shelfie. Yeah. Yeah, you got to get rid of it. Well, they'll do anything to kind of get a championship back. There we go. All right. I'm done talking about that's as much Browns talk as I ever want to have on this program. Okay? And there we are. Hey, our program's brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. Find them at Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, and many other places in the refrigerated section. And there you go. Let's kick off the program as we always do. We have the cut to kick things off and to start it up officially, and then we put the Browns talk behind us. Let's get right to it.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
We'll find out. I mean, I feel good about the team. If you guys think they haven't made any progress from last year to now, then that's your opinion. I think people can realize that we're a different team than last year's team, and we'll keep working on it. We are sitting at 3-0. There's some really good things that we're doing. I think a lot of people want to focus on the negative. We'll get better. We know how to fix those things, and we'll make it work. But I like to praise the things that we've done already as a team.
I disagree with Kalani that people are trying to focus on the negative. It's hard to not see the similarities, though, because you were burned last year going 3-0, needing just 3 wins out of the next 9 games to get to bowl eligibility, and it didn't happen. So people are trepidatious at best when it comes to their belief in BYU, right? So it's not, I mean, if Kalani wants to paint the picture of us versus the world thing, that's fine. You got to do that as a coach. We have a conversation every week with Connor Pay. We're going to have that conversation with him next hour. And I think there's a lot of this. I mean, we'll ask him the same question, but I think there's a lot of similarities. It's an easy thing for the team to find a, hey, nobody believes in us but us type of a theme, right? Which is what Kalani's finding with this. And that, I think it's fine. It's something that he gets motivation out of. It's something the team gets motivation out of. But when did the wheels fall off last year? You brought it up yesterday, Jay.
Game 4.
Game 4.
In Lawrence, Kansas.
First game of
as soon as you started conference
schedule.
play. This is the next hurdle for them.
That's
a big hurdle on Saturday night coming to Lavelle Edwards Stadium. Oof.
Yes. And it's a better Kansas State team than Kansas was last year. I feel pretty confident saying that.
100%.
You're on the road last year, but it's not like, Kansas is known for the
I was there. That is not an intimidating place to play.
That's what I'm saying. It's not an insane atmosphere. So I don't know. Here's what Kalani had to say about playing Kansas State, because he does know, obviously, it's going to be the biggest challenge that they have so far this year.
They play great defense, play great on offense, and they do a great job on special teams as well. So I talked about how well coached they are. They have really good talent, too. It's going to be a true test for us, one of the teams that are favored to win this conference and highly ranked. And so we're looking forward to the matchup. I'm excited about the opportunities that we have and know more about ourselves and about our program and how much progress we've made. I felt like we've made some great progress throughout this season and especially from last year, and really looking forward to this game.
Okay. It is their biggest challenge. BYU, I feel like the players should do the thing that Utah players did. Yeah, BYU game's important, I guess. But this Oklahoma State game is the most important game on our schedule. For BYU, I mean, Utah is obviously a difficult game. And that one, if Utah is rolling, it's going to be a single-digit ranked Utah team up there in Salt Lake City. That's already a more difficult situation. The thing about this game is, and what I do hope to hear later in the whole show, or later when we hear a little bit about. Or no, we can in the next segment we'll actually play some of the things that have been said about BYU by Avery Johnson, who's a quarterback for Kansas State. They have the same thing where they're like, "Hey, look, we're going to this place that we have no idea what we get," and they're making a big deal out of the elevation. Fine, and obviously it's one of the bigger, if not the biggest, stadium in the conference now. Is it? Where is it at? Where's I think it's the largest stadium capacity wise in the conference now. Oh, we'll have to look it up. I don't know how. There's no way to find that out, Jeremiah. There's no way to. That's not kept. That record isn't kept.
It's number
anymore.
one.
It is.
It is kept. That record is kept, and it is number one.
Number two's probably got to be Oklahoma State and Utah, kind of around there, right?
Number 2
McLean
is
Stadium?
Jack Trice Stadium in Ames, Iowa, 61,500. Number 3 is Texas Tech Jones AT&T Stadium, 60,454. Number 4 is West Virginia, Milan Pusker Stadium, 60,000 seats.
That is the most West Virginia name, Milan Pusker. Okay.
And number 5 is Utah.
Yeah. And Oklahoma State's right there.
By a hair over Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they're about the same size. So I get it. And I will say this.
Oh, sorry, that's incorrect.
What is it?
Oh, I got this wrong. Oklahoma State is 5th. Arizona State is 6th with 53, and Utah's 7th.
We're talking about ones that actually
with 51,000.
We're talking about stadiums where actually they'll put that many people.
That's what I misunderstood. Is how many stadiums are actually filling that many people?
Yeah, and you know what? 4 years ago, BYU, 3 years ago, BYU was not putting all the butts in the seats. You've got to admit, the year running up to Big 12 and then Big 12 play last year, the student section is better than it's been in a decade and a half. It started being look, and so it's an environment. What I'm saying is that it is raucous. All right, it's not Royal K Stadium with 95,000 people. It's not Boomer Sooner, I only bring those up because those are places that Kansas State has obviously played, but it is going to be one of the more, and hostile is not the word that I'd use for BYU's stadium, but I will say loud. It's very loud. It's very, very loud. And that's a place that they can draw some false starts, and I would anticipate they would. So Kalani obviously says this is their biggest game of the year so far, and it is. It might be along the lines of importance of the season, probably top 3. Even now, the way things are going to probably shake out, it's probably a top 3 game. And that's with all the good teams in the conference. BYU has to play all of them, basically. And at some point, UCF is going to end up being maybe a more important game than we had thought. And it's shaping up to be that way for everybody. So here's what Kalani had to say about the young guys who are now trying to learn this whole process, because I think this is where you start to make inroads next year and the year after, is when you have guys who are learning what it feels like to play in this conference and to play big-time teams.
They'll be ready. I think that they have a role. A lot of them will be called on to do some things. I mean, depending on the matchups and things like that. But I was pleased with how they've come along. We're deeper than we've ever been before, and we've had to test some of our depth in the running back position. And I feel good about where we stand. I feel good about the talent, especially with the incoming freshmen. There's a lot of talent there.
Do you think that's true? Do you think it's the best depth they've had? And it's only year 2 of the Big 12. It's only going to get better, but that's been the biggest knock is getting into
believe so. I saw some players getting time late in that game. I was impressed with what they can do. I think you're looking around at different positions. I mean, I think they're better at backup quarterback than they've been in a long, long time with Gary Bohannon, right? If Jake Retzloff goes down, what do you lose?
Yeah,
not much, right? So that's better. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
The running backs are being tested right now. I thought the freshmen came in and did a good job at Wyoming. Now it's a different test on Saturday. Again, we're gonna keep saying this all week. Like, BYU has not seen anything close to what they're going to see on Saturday night. But you look around in the depth, is it better? And the ultimate question we've asked in this segment is BYU better this year than last? I have some stats. Are you ready for some numbers? Because that makes for great radio.
Maybe the recitation of numbers isn't great radio, but for somebody who's listening in right now,
can we nerd out for
lend an ear?
Points
this
here?
Is the stuff you could tell your friends that you looked up yourself at home, and then you bring it to the water cooler. Let JJ do the work for you.
What were they ranked offense last year, total offense? Do you remember at the end of the season?
At the end of the season, I want to say 99th.
Okay, they're 40th right now. That's a drastic improvement.
Yeah,
through 3 games,
absolutely.
And that's and that includes a game that you went 18-15. against SMU, right? So that's good. Total defense, what were they last year?
Again, probably in that
120th.
120? I would have said like 104, but
they are 14th in the country right now in total defense.
Wow.
Sacks, where were they last year? Dead last in the country. They were
133.
You didn't know that? They were tied with
who doesn't have people
They were tied
play?
with some other team for the last in the country.
Some other team.
Jonah Ellis had more sacks
by himself
than BYU,
Yep.
and he only played in 10 games. This year, they're tied for 58th with 6. Yeah. So they've split the difference. Mm-hmm. And here's one that's going to get people riled up a little bit. Jake Retzlaff, total offense nationally, 13th.
Him?
In the country.
Wow.
In total offense. That includes passing and rushing.
Okay.
You probably didn't think that.
No.
Was Keaton Slovis 13th in the nation last year in the point total offense?
Not even close.
So is there improvement? Absolutely.
It's only 3 games in, though, JJ. Come on, man.
But are we going to see the improvement on Saturday night? Yeah. And that's what BYU fans really want to know. And the BYU fans, look, I'm not glossing over some of the stuff that's questionable. I think the defense is great. I'm not seeing any big weaknesses there. And we got to see him against a big-time running back, though, right? How are they going to hold up against an Ollie Gordon or some of the other great running backs in the league? But right now, the defense looks legit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to gloss over some of the bad throws and some of the mistakes that Jake Retzlaff has made, and understanding that those mistakes could be taken advantage of a lot more by Big 12 defenses than they have by the first 3 teams they've played. But you can't argue that BYU hasn't improved in a lot of areas. The true test will be once they get into conference play, which begins on Saturday night.
Remember how bad? Let me just remind people where this team was at this point last year. That you had already seen problems with the offense at this point, right? Even though you go, all right, 3 games in, they're 3-0. And that's the part where you said you were more impressed last year with the Arkansas win at Arkansas. That's a tougher place to play than winning, down at SMU, and certainly winning at Wyoming. So on the whole, that one looks better on paper. However, you already knew that they had problems. Last year, they couldn't get more. They averaged less than 105 yards a game on the ground. Their opponents averaged 180 on the ground per game against them, right? And then passing, they averaged 205 yards a game passing. They averaged last year, if you'll recall, 310 yards of offense per game. 310. And that's why game 2 kind of made people a little bit nervous, because they got 325 or whatever it was when they beat SMU. But the difference is this year, they held SMU under 250. They held Wyoming to 217 this last weekend? Something stupid. There's a reason they're 14th in total defense this year. It's because they are stifling teams. And we don't know how good SMU is. We feel like we know how bad Wyoming is. Mm-hmm. That's why you wonder. But it doesn't make a difference if you don't actually show, because those other teams that they played early on in the season were also not very good teams in a lot of respects. Arkansas ended up being one of the worst rushing defenses in the country, and guess what? BYU couldn't run the ball against them. They had an okay night. It turns out it was one of their better nights because Arkansas was abysmal in the run game, in run defense. Okay, so you still have to perform against those bad teams, and they couldn't even figure those games out when they were supposed to, run all over teams. Gosh, they averaged 23 points a game last year, and they gave up 30 a game.
That's not a good recipe.
No, that's how you lose 9 out of the. That's how you lose, 7 of the 9 conference games and 5 in a row at the very end. And they were in the games against some of the toughest teams in the conference at the very end of the year. That's what's wild to me. With this, basically the same group, a lot of the same people, a lot of the same personnel. I'm not saying that they can't pull it off. What I'm saying is, this is the difficulty that they have ahead of them, is trying to prove that they have turned a corner. We've all seen with our eyes the eyeball test with the first 3 games of the defense feels like you know what's going on with that defense, that it has changed, it has gotten better. I don't know if it's going to be 14th at the end of the season, but I guarantee it's not going to be 130th or whatever it was. So, all right, here's what Coach Klein-Estake said about the quarterback they're going to be facing. Avery Johnson is legit. He's one of the more talented dudes. And I'll say, too, having heard him speak a little bit. He is a confident guy, too. He feels like he knows this offense very, very well. Here's what Kalani says about Avery Johnson.
Well, Avery is a dynamic runner. He can take a small little gap and turn it into a big-time play. So he can create on his feet, even in the pass game. He can create more time for him in the pocket. And then he's always a threat to scramble and hurt you that way. So he's a complete player when it comes to quarterback. Tough kid, too, man. I think he's got a great command of the offense, and they've done a great job at setting him up to have success. But he can do whatever you need a quarterback to do. I've been really impressed with him on film.
He's not just impressive on film. Like, he's a really, really good leader, too. Yeah. Like, you can tell when he talks, you're like, oh, this guy's got it put together. It's the same kind of attitude you get from – kind of reminds me of Cam Rising a little bit. Like, the swagger's there. You know what I mean? And has a little bit of a smile on his face and is kind of running free. Doesn't really put up insane numbers through the air, but scares the absolute hell out of you if you're a defensive coordinator. Absolutely
always
scares
calm and chill, and it feels like he's got everything under control, right? And that's an attribute that you want out of your quarterback. You don't want a quarterback that is anything but that. And give him credit. He's shown that, and he's from Wichita. I mean, he's a Kansas kid, and they don't get those kind of talents in that state very often. And he's a really good player. Sophomore, 6'2", 192. Mm-hmm. Dual threat. BYU is going to have to be ready in all phases because this Kansas State team's got a lot of talent. But especially on defense, they're going to have to figure him out. They need to make him a pocket passer. I mean, it's pretty obvious, right? I mean, I'm no genius, but I can see that. Like, you have a better shot against Kansas State by forcing Avery Johnson to become a pocket passer than you do letting him get out on the edge and get involved in the run game. But what was the one time this year in the first 3 games where you felt like somebody had BYU figured out?
Yeah.
It was game 1. That quarterback was getting chunk plays in the run game.
But they also did the same thing with Jennings in the second half of that SMU game, right?
Yeah.
He was running the ball a little bit, and it got a little bit nerve-wracking for him. And then what they do, they go, look, let's just keep this guy in a pocket. Mm-hmm. And what did he do? Go 3 for 16 in his last 19 throws. And that lost the game for him. They went out on the field, and they had to throw the ball to have success, and they couldn't do it. They could not do it. One, because BYU had pressure, which, as the defensive backs will tell you, makes their lives so much easier when there's some pressure on the quarterback, because then they look and they go, oh, he's getting flustered here, and I'm on my guy. I'm going to be able to get a takeaway here. So
here's the bad news with that. If you make Avery Johnson a pocket passer, his completion percentage has gone up 8 points. He was 56% last year. Now he's 64%.
All right. But he's still not throwing the ball a ton, right? Like, he's throwing it, how many times a game? 20? 15, 20? I think in the last game he only completed
21, 23, 23 on attempts.
He's not throwing the ball a lot. So he wants to be on the run a little bit more. They want to hand the ball off to Giddens, and they've got a 2-headed monster running back. They want to make sure that they dominate you. By the way, Kansas State probably has the best offensive line in the entire Big 12. They look like Wisconsin. Okay?
Yes.
They have that size. They have that Big 10 corn-fed sort of look to them. Okay?
As they should.
And that's what Kansas State has been built on.
That's what they should be.
Yeah.
They're the old Big 8. I mean, that's how all those teams are, even though they stunk back then.
No, but they have.
That's the culture. Yes. That's where they come from. That's what their football tradition is.
3 yards in a cloud of dust.
Well, speaking of, so I mentioned his stats, Avery Johnson. Would you rather have that 60% completion rate with just the 22 attempts per game, or would you rather have him on the ground? Well, I'll answer this real quick. They struggled against Tulane. He only carried the ball 8 times for 40 yards in that game. They crushed Arizona. He ran the ball 17 times for 110 yards, averaging 6.5 yards per carry. He had a 26-yard run. Your best chance is keeping him in the pocket, and you roll the dice with that. Don't let him run 17 times a game. You will lose.
They don't want to dial up 30 pass plays even for him. They feel comfortable calling 20 to 25 pass plays.
If you get him to 30 attempts in that game, that means you're winning.
You're doing pretty well.
It means you're forcing them to throw.
I like it.
You're forcing them to play from behind.
This is why I cheat off of JJ's play sheet before I do my pre-games on Saturdays. What you're going to want to do, this is me on Saturday, fast forward to Saturday. What you're going to want to do, you want to force Avery Johnson to throw the ball 30 to 35 times back to you. I'm just going to steal this straight from you, all right?
Expert analysis.
That's what we're going to do. Speaking of experts, what the opposing teams have to say about the games they're playing this weekend, what the Wildcats have to say about BYU, what the Cowboys have to say about Utah, all of it right around the corner. Plus, we'll hear from Tyler Batty on the way back in as well, what he says about year 2 into Big 12 play. We've got so many things for you here, so stay right here and stay attentive because we're going to be still talking some local college football, and we're going to get you going here. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Aggies head east to Philadelphia for a big non-conference battle against Temple. Your home for all the play-by-play coverage of Aggie football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
A Parker Kingston audio clip where the players are all saying the same thing, JJ. It sounds good. We're miles ahead where we were last year. So this 3-0 to them feels different because inside the team, they saw problems. They got to 3-0 last year, but they saw problems. Now, I've been fascinated by the numbers you've rolled out the last couple of days on Jake Retzlaff because it doesn't go along with the narrative of everybody else rolling out like, same old, same old. This is what you're going to get, inconsistent Jake. But he was 0-4 last year. He was 3-0 so far this year. I get the competition is different. But, man, does Jake Retzlaff of this year throw that pick 6 against Oklahoma this weekend?
Maybe. That's why the jury's still out. That's the only issue here. The numbers, if you're just looking on paper, pop.
They look pretty good.
Who's 13th in the country in total offense? Jake Retzlaff.
Wild.
But how many moments in the Wyoming game where you're like, what?
Why'd you throw that?
What was that SMU ride like, BYU fans?
Oh, yeah. It was
you wanted to get off that train, didn't you? Mm-hmm. This is the Jake Retzlaff experience. You know what? It just is what it is.
I think
as long as it's productive and it ends with W's, just enjoy the ride.
So Darius Lassiter does the Players Club with DJ and PK every Monday. And they asked him yesterday morning, I don't know if you heard it, but they asked him yesterday morning, like, hey, so you didn't look real happy with Jake after he missed you on an out route there that was pretty wide open.
Yeah. And
it's frustrating because Darius Lassiter is like, I'm beating the absolute drawers off of this corner that he's working on. And he's like, there's this guy's got no shot. Just put the ball on the money or get it close.
Yeah.
Ask Chase Roberts. Get it close. I'll bail you out. There were a couple of throws that felt like they were bailouts. Even the trick play, like that was not a beautiful ball.
Hung up there, didn't it?
So,
like this could go either one way or the other. Yeah. One's good, one's bad, and it went good.
Right. So what I'm saying is the nerve-wracking part is exactly that. It's nerve-wracking. So I think the reality is we're going to get a better idea in 3 games what this team really is. The problem is last year after 6 games, what were they? They were 4-2.
They were 4-2.
5-1. Yeah, they were 4-2.
They had the loss to Kansas. What was
they
it?
beat Cincinnati.
They went into the Texas Tech game 4-2. So they beat Cincinnati.
And they were 5-2. They were 5-2 after the Texas Tech game. Yeah. So even 7 games in, people were like, I feel like they got a chance here.
I mean, I came on the show last year every week, and I said, look, like BYU, they're 5-2. This team could get to 7-8 wins. And then everything changed quickly.
Yeah, I thought it was your fault.
I take full responsibility. But yeah,
I am an idiot.
Oh, come on. That was not his fault.
And BYU has kind of a little bit of a history of this in October into November. What happened, a couple years ago?
Were they 0-for in October? They didn't win a game in October?
Remember how Puka made that incredible catch-up at Boise State? Otherwise, they would have lost a 5th straight game.
Oh, boy.
Like, there's this midseason thing that this program's got to get over the hump with.
Yeah, and I think that part of that is the depth part where when you start to run into the wall of injury,
it's exactly what it is.
Do you have enough dogs to keep in that fight?
It was an issue in Independence.
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to be an issue in Big 12. It's still a work in progress.
Nominate your youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Just submit that nomination, KSLSports.com/contest. Listen every Thursday. JJ and I reveal that winner, and we celebrate the efforts of those volunteers who do an awesome job with the Hercules Hero of the Week. And you know who somebody is. You have somebody on your mind who does a phenomenal job with your kids, with the kids in the community, whomever it might be, and you can nominate that person. Just go to KSLSports.com/contest. Nominate them. We'll honor them with a gift card from Hercules Credit Union and then a voucher for $200 to Beehive Meals. So there you go. I called one of my kids today. I said, "Put one of the Beehive Meals in the pot," because I'd forgotten.
It's so easy. Even
I know.
Your kids can do it.
I know, and
it's easier than a microwave.
No. Here's the best question.
You can still burn your house down with a microwave. You can't really do that. Here
was the best question from the 14-year-old though. Wait, so do I take the plastic off or does it cook in the plastic? I said, go ahead and take the plastic off there, buddy.
Wow. So
there's still some things that you're like,
okay,
I get it. Maybe he thought it was like a sous vide bag or something. Kids, man, we all had to learn at some point, right? All right.
Yes.
Avery Johnson, the quarterback for the Kansas State Wildcats. He's one of the more interesting characters in the league this year at quarterback because he could be an all-conference guy. His team definitely lives and dies by what he does. And here's what Avery Johnson said about the challenges that BYU's defense brings this Saturday.
They're really talented. They're big guys. They're really disciplined and sound. Those guys play hard, and it's going to be a different environment for us. Elevation will be up, and that stadium can get pretty loud. So we're going to have to definitely come ready to compete and ready to play.
Okay. It is a loud environment. You can tell yourself that all you want to until you actually get into it. Like, oh, yeah, it's going to be a loud environment. It's like, is it? Because someone told you? He's like, well, in college football 2025, it's pretty loud. Have we gotten the sim game yet from Mitch? Okay, too early in the week. You got to give the EA Sports. My favorite part about all that is that Mitch actually puts it on the simulation and then just watches it like a game.
He's a sicko.
That's his job, though, man. He's got to get down to the details because you could just press simulate and it would just do it. That's the way I did it back in the day. But now you got to watch the game.
Got to get the clips as well.
You got to pull clips. You got to pull the clips. All right. All right. Here's what Kansas State head coach Chris Kleiman. Chris Kleiman is an interesting guy. We've been able to talk to him the last couple of Big 12 media days, and he's one of these guys that is an up and coming coach. Took over for Bill Snyder. Obviously, that's a program that needed to have consistency, and they had it for decades with him. But now they're starting to get more of that recognition, and I think Chris Kleiman is doing a lot to help that out. Here's what he said about playing at LaBelle Edwards Stadium.
I was there once in, I think, 2008 when I was at UNI, and I remember how loud it was. I remember how gorgeous the setting was. I know that football is really important at BYU, and they've had great tradition of football, and they're off to a 3-0 start. So I think that, as well as the fact it's a great setting, it's a night game, it's on ESPN, it's going to attract a lot of viewers and attract a lot of fans. But the fact that you've got two undefeated teams that are playing pretty well now, I think it's just going to be a great atmosphere for college football.
Yeah, that's a feeling you get with Kansas State. BYU fans are looking at it and going, okay, it's still kind of been a little bit sputtery. Kansas State hit a little bit of a groove this weekend. And I don't know if you can say that BYU's hit any kind of groove yet, except for on defense, I guess, right? So the part where you take over a game, and they owned the time of possession last week against Wyoming, but it did feel clunky. You know, I think anybody who watched that game, games take on their own personality, right, JJ? They have the feel to them that kind of it just sort of gets taken over with however things are going. And when BYU was 11-1 and playing awful teams, the play calling, they were 5 steps ahead of every team, every play call. And the narrative of every game was this crazy thing where you're like, oh my gosh, everything's working, right? And there's a reason that Zach Wilson was the number 2 overall pick that year. Everything was clicking, and we haven't seen a clicking BYU offense really since then. I mean, there were moments.
That's dilemma. That's why there's this, I'll call it polarization in the fan base with Jake Retzlaff, because it's not fair, but this is just how it's going to be at BYU. You're going to be compared to the greats before you. And there's been some recent greats. Jaron Hall, outstanding, right? Zach Wilson, number 2 overall pick. You go before that, Taysom Hill. And then not long before that, you had Riley Nelson, who had some great moments. And then you had Max Hall and John Beck. Like, this whole generation of BYU fans has been used to having great quarterback play, and when it's not, they recognize it and they boo it. Right. You know what I mean? Like, they get it and they understand when you have good quarterback play and when you don't. And look, I pointed out these numbers. Jake's stats are great, but there's moments where it's teetering one way or the other, and this is an opportunity for it to teeter all the way back over, because if he gets a win against Kansas State at home, a number 13 team in the country, like, that's just going to be such a shot of confidence for him and this team and for the fan base. It's a chance for him to win this over. Beating SMU on the road 18-15 is not going to win anybody over. Beating the bad Wyoming team in Laramie is not winning anyone over. So what? You beat them by 20 points. They were garbage.
Yeah, you know how
they
fans
lost
are.
to Idaho.
But you know how fans are too.
So this is a big moment
They
for
beat
them.
Kansas State, and it'll be like a 17-13 game, and they'll go, yeah, but.
Well, they better not for this one. If BYU beats Kansas State Saturday night, BYU has turned a corner, and BYU is legit, because that's how good Kansas State is. Kansas State beat a really good Tulane team at their place and had to make a play late to make sure they won that game. That was a good win, though, on the road.
Yep.
And then what did they do on Friday night? They absolutely dominated a team that we thought was a legit top 25 team in the country.
Yeah.
So if BYU beats them, the perception of BYU, not just for us, but around the country, will suddenly change. You beat a top 15 team in the country, you're going to get noticed, you're going to get attention. This is a massive opportunity for BYU to prove to everybody, including themselves, that they truly are as good as they said they are, that they have improved. This is a moment to show everybody who you are and what you're really about. Even if it's really, really close, they'll have proven something. Because Kansas State, there's no shame in losing to that team.
Oh, for sure.
There will be shame in losing to them by double digits and you turn the ball over 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. Hey, we'll come back. We've got a Would You Rather. We also need to play some of this sound from Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy at the press conference, where they had to put a refrigerator out of its misery to be able to get through the interview. Kudos to Mike Gundy. He's actually the one who started it up. Those reporters were being funny about it. They were like, let's just power through. Worst audio ever. Come on. All right. We'll come back. We've got more to go. Stay right here with us. It is 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody. Real-life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right. Would you rather? A little fun game we like to play during our program. I also have some sound still to hear from Coach Mike Gundy, which was quite an never dull moment with Mike Gundy. There's always something going on. And I think at his press conference, I don't know, we can do the fridge. We're doing the fridge one later, though, right? Okay. The fridge one's later. This is like the actual, once they got the fridge to stop malfunctioning, you got actual audio from Coach Mike Gundy. Here's what he said about preparing for Cam Rising. And by the way, Mike Gundy and Kyle Whittingham are the 2 longest tenured coaches in the Big 12. And number 2 and 3 in the country of tenured coaches in FBS.
Well, there's a would you rather right there.
Okay.
We'll do that after we hear the sound.
Absolutely. So here's what Mike Gundy had to say about Cam Rising.
We've had some games on him. He went out in the second quarter, I think, and so we've got decent tape on kind of what they're doing. They're not really trying to change scheme-wise much. They're going to do what they do, and it looks like they're bringing him along the best chance they get.
We got some decent tape on him. I would hope by now. Well, not just that. You have Andy Ludwig. Yeah, it's not just 7 years in, Jeremy. You have Andy Ludwig, who's been the offensive coordinator for the entirety of his time there when Cam's been the quarterback. Everything they do, you could go back. They get inventive, but at the same time, Andy Ludwig and Kyle Whittingham have a style.
There's nothing new. There's no secrets with Utah. They are who they are, and Mike Gundy knows it.
Yeah, and guess what? The reality is that they tend to beat you in the trenches. They tend to beat you at quarterback play. Their running backs tend to be better than your defense. That's how they win this thing, right? Here's what he said about playing Utah and then Kansas State, because that's who their second opponent is in conference play. That's a rough one.
Well, I thought they were trying to make it hard on us, to be honest with you. And the commissioner's my buddy, but he doesn't do the scheduling. And so I sent the wrong guy pecans for Christmas. I should have sent the scheduling guy pecans for Christmas. But I'm sure they set this up based on success over an extended period of time and what they thought could be games that might determine what happens at the end of the year. And their job is to create games that are going to draw viewership. And I would guess that they probably had that in mind when they scheduled these games.
Ding, ding, ding. You won the lottery, Mike Gundy. They schedule these games based off of how interested we are in watching them. There you go. And look, I get it. Playing Utah and Kansas State back-to-back is not fun. I don't think they're coming at you personally. I don't think that they're attacking you personally, Mike Gundy, right? I mean, that's the idea, right? Where it's like, I'm coming. The scheduling guy made this one more difficult. And it's like, yeah, right. That's pretty good Mike Gundy, by the way.
You're close.
The scheduling guy made this a little bit more difficult. I sent the wrong guy pecans. Did he call them pecans?
Pecan, yeah. I don't think Brett Yarmark's a pecan guy.
No. Pecan is the state tree of Texas, though. Jeremy, you remember this? You remember your old Texas state history class? You can figure it out. What's the state flower? Yeah, the weeds on the side of the freeway, yes. Don't touch them or they'll be murdered. That was like when you're a kid, you're trained. Oh, my goodness. All right, so Mike Gundy knows exactly what he's getting with Utah, and I think Utah knows exactly what they're getting with Oklahoma State. Here's the twist. Guess who is 7th in the country in passing? If you have Alan Bowman down, you'd be right. If you had him down at the beginning of the year being 7th in the country right now in passing, at the beginning before the year started, this is a guy who's been absolutely terrible as the quarterback. He was picked as, in a lot of cases, it was like, who's BYU's quarterback? Well, it's either Jake Retzlaff or Gary Bohannon. Yeah, I still take my chances with those guys. In a lot of the lists, they were 16th, they were 15th, and then whoever it was, Alan Bowman. Alan Bowman is having a career freaking year. That's not good because guess what they're going to do? They've been leaning more on him than they have Ollie Gordon, who everybody is prepping for. It's not going to be as straightforward with Oklahoma State as it usually is. The Doak Walker Award winner is not the key piece right now in this offense. Isn't that weird? That's freaking weird.
It is weird. You know what else is weird? Do you know what the combined ages of the quarterbacks in the Oklahoma State-Utah game is?
51.
Almost 49.
Oh, boy.
Do you know what the combined ages of the Colts-Texans game in week 1 of the NFL season was?
40.
44.
Oh, my goodness.
5-year gap between college quarterbacks starting in a game this weekend in a top 25 matchup and a battle between the Colts
This is
and the Texans.
Alan Bowman's third team, right? He was Texas Tech.
Actually
playing. He played snaps for Texas Tech. If I'm not mistaken, he actually played snaps at Michigan. And then is finally, settled in at Oklahoma State. So Utah's not getting just the full-on, regular, straightforward version of Alan Bowman and of this Oklahoma State offense. The Doak Walker winner, Ollie Gordon, is not even in the top 15 for rushing in the country right now. So
Alan Bowman played in 9 games in 2018.
Wow. Like I said, he's been around a long time.
That's insane.
BYU gets hassled, man, but geez.
3 years at Texas Tech, 2 at Michigan, 2 at Oklahoma State.
Very quickly, JJ, would you rather be a new Pac-12 team or in some other G5 conference?
A new Pac-12
Yeah,
team.
It still has that draw.
As long as the Pac-12 is going to pay my bills.
Plus, as long as UTSA is in the Pac-12, the new Pac-12, I think we're going to be in a good place. Join Hans and Scotty on Friday, noon to 3 at Rough Tough, 2252 West President's Drive in West Valley City, America's finest custom seat covers. We'll take the break here. We'll come back right around the corner. Our weekly conversation with BYU offensive captain and center Connor Pay. Stay right here with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.